Good morning, everybody. When you're headed to the airport, looking forward to that special trip, are you excited about sitting on an airplane? Most of us probably not. But on this date in 1969, the FAA approved the 747, the jumbo jet. And all through the 70s into the 80s, people were excited about the trip and the airplane. The Wright brothers made their famous flight in 1903, and soon after that, airplanes were carrying passengers. The airline of our story is Pan Am. Pan Am began its international career by carrying mail to Central and South America. And it became kind of the unofficial airline of the United States all around the world. And one of the reasons it was able to do that is it ordered planes like this one. The Stratoliner was the first pressurized airplane, which meant it could fly above weather systems. So Pan Am used this to establish some of its long-distance routes. When World War II was finished, Pan Am ordered this plane from Boeing, the Stratocruiser. It was a larger airplane, and this is part of the philosophy of Pan Am that will show itself in the 747 is opening air travel up to everyday people. That was a big deal for Pan Am. Pan Am ordered the 707 from Boeing. This was not the first jet aircraft for people. That was the de Havilland Comet. But the 707 became very reliable, a real workhorse, lasted for decades. At the end of the 1960s, the Concorde made its appearance. So Boeing and Lockheed and other American airplane companies were working on their own supersonic design. So the first team of engineers at Boeing worked on this airplane. So it was the second team, so to speak, that worked on the 747, pictured here. This is that first generation. And people thought, well, if the supersonic plane gets going, maybe we can use the 747 as a freighter. And that's why it has that bump on the front, because that was where the big cargo hatch was. But the supersonic plane got canceled, so the 747 became the great airplane for Boeing at the time. This is a cockpit of one of those early versions of the 747. Pilots loved this airplane because it flew really well, and people loved it because it seemed spacious, even though there were 4 or 5 seats in the center and then 2 by either window. But it felt really spacious, so people liked that. And it also had a second floor or a second deck where you would go up steps and you'd find a really cool lounge or a special place to just hang out, and people thought that was really neat. Boeing needed an engine for the 747, and this is the one built by Pratt & Whitney. It had some initial glitches, but those got worked out, and it became a great engine for the airplane. Airports had to do major remodeling of jetways and waiting rooms and facilities for such a big airplane. And Boeing had to build a new building to assemble the 747. Here it is. It's still there. It's in Everett, Washington, north of Seattle. It's the largest building on the planet by cubic feet, and it's still used to assemble airplanes today. So check it out when you're in the Seattle area. It's worth a tour. It's a huge building. Now, the real fun fact is that the Wright brothers airplane pictured at the top would not have made it the length of a 747. Perhaps the most famous 747 is Air Force One. I think they're flying the latest version of the 747. But it can also be used as a way to fight fires because it can hold a lot of retardant. So it's quite a versatile airplane. And maybe this is the most iconic use of it, is carrying the space shuttle. So people think that over 3 billion people have flown on the 747, but it's being phased out for quieter, more fuel-efficient airplanes like this one. But one of Boeing's ideas was to make an airplane, Pan Am used it, to make travel available to the general public. So remember that. the next time you're on your special trip.